growth. So why do we sometimes feel empty inside, or caught up in worries over little things?
Meditation is a universal tradition. We find it in all the great religious families. The earliest mention of meditation is about 3000 BC from India. But every religious tradition has generated a mystical teaching, in fact has come out of a mystical experience, and has also developed some approach and some practical teaching on meditation. Interestingly, today, as part of the recovery of meditation in Western society, it's happened partly through the East, the Oriental religions, where meditation, of course, is more accepted and familiar. It's also come through science. You're more likely to be told about meditation by a therapist or by a doctor today. If you go to a doctor and you say, oh, I've got this pain in my chest and I can't sleep at night and I'm getting panic attacks and if my cholesterol is bad, if he or she is a good doctor, they may say, well, look, I could give you something for it, but have you considered your lifestyle and have you considered meditation? Because we know that meditation is good for you physically and psychologically. It's good for your blood pressure, it reduces your cholesterol, it helps you psychologically in terms of stress, anxiety, stress-related diseases, panic attacks, dealing with depression. If you go onto the internet, you'll find thousands of research papers on these benefits of meditation. And all of those are perfectly valuable, good reasons for meditating. But I think at the end of the day, after you've got your physical and psychological balance back, you don't judge your life just in terms of those conditions. You judge your life by deeper spiritual values, by your experience of relationship, by your meaning that you find in your work, above all, of course, by your experience of love. So, in addition to the physical and psychological benefits of meditation, there are also what we could call the spiritual fruits of meditation. And these are less easy to measure. They're love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, fidelity, gentleness, self-control. So those aren't things you can measure in the same way you can measure your cholesterol, but they are probably what defines the quality of our life and the value of our life in more real human terms. And I think the link between meditation and those spiritual fruits is just as provable and just as easily experienced as with those physical and psychological benefits. Now, as a community, we teach meditation primarily from the point of view of a spiritual practice, a spiritual discipline, in which these fruits will emerge quite naturally. John Main, who was my own teacher, with his roots in Kerry, said that the opening of the heart is as simple and as natural as the opening of a flower. You just have to have the right conditions for that to happen. And meditation helps to create those right conditions. And then you just trust your own nature. God works on nature. Grace works on nature. It's a very basic principle of Christian thought. God doesn't, I must say, the more I meditate, the less I'm interested in the supernatural. Because maybe rather like those Celtic monks, the natural is wonderful enough. And God is present within my own nature within the physical environment around me and within my interactions with other people. So I think recovering our sense of this contemplative or spiritual dimension of life is not just a question of study or going to talks or reading. It's really something that has to happen, first of all, because you're seeking something. You're aware that something is missing in your life. And that awareness may be uncomfortable, it may be confusing, because you don't know what's missing. But that's where you start any real spiritual journey. You have to have that conscious awareness and accept it, that there is something missing and that you want to find it. And then secondly, it's practice. You have to take a risk. You have to commit yourself to the beginning of a journey. And with meditation, really all you have to do is to begin. You don't have to say, you don't have to understand it fully. You don't have to have all the answers to the religious or theological or spiritual questions you might have. You just have to start. And then you have to keep on beginning, obviously. You have to keep the beginner's mind. You have to keep open. But day by day, as you heard from, I think, those witnesses, the experience begins to bear fruit. And it's not perhaps so much that you find all the answers, because you never find all the answers, but you learn to live with an experience that is full of meaning and informs you and forms you and enriches you, so that you feel, you know that you're growing. So the first thing is really just to begin, to know that you're looking for something and to begin where you are. One of the problems of a lot of Christian spirituality is that it's been far too much built upon a perfectionism, that you had to be perfect, or you started off with this sort of handicap of being imperfect and sinful, and you had to achieve some kind of perfection before you were acceptable to God. And I think that is radically un-Christian. It's absolutely not what the New Testament is saying about the Christian way. Any kind of spirituality begins with you where you are. And that is in a very imperfect, incomplete state, but also a state in which you are drawn to discover your own essential goodness and essential meaning. There has to be some hope if you're to start a spiritual journey. If you didn't have some glimmer of faith in yourself, you'd never take that first step. And you'd be on a downward spiral. Sometimes people get into a downward spiral, and that's why we need help. We need somebody to pick us up and turn us around. And that's where the community comes in, to any spiritual journey. As you saw in that film, community, small group, not a big institution, but the friendship, the spiritual friendship of people on the same journey, self-discovery, discovery of God, and sharing friendship as a fuel. Friendship is, in the ancient world, was seen as the highest goal of human life. A life without friendship was not worth living, Plato said. And spiritual friendship is quite a rare kind of friendship in human terms. We have all sorts of friends, social friends, professional friends, friends with whom we share certain types of interests. Spiritual friendship is one that grows and develops through spiritual practice together. And it's a very unique and wonderful kind of friendship to discover and to explore. And it's really necessary, I think, if you want to sustain a practice. It's very difficult to meditate on your own or in isolation. John Main, when I first joined him in the very early days when we just started a few Christian meditation groups, inspired me with his ideas of a community of love. And a community, in other words, that was based primarily not upon organization, upon dogma, or upon achievement levels or productivity, but simply upon the experience of love, the giving and sharing of love. And community of love is not a romantic idea. It could be hard work at times, like a marriage. But it's what drew me, I think, into believing that I could start this practice of meditation. And even these years later, I feel I'm still discovering it. I'm still exploring it. But I know for sure that it is a way that is real and effective and transformative. But without some sense of community, without some regular form of practice together, I certainly wouldn't have been able to keep going. So, just a very short word about meditation in relationship to other forms of Christian prayer. That may be a question in some of your minds. And then I'll ask Tim, who's the director of our meditation center at Georgetown University in Washington, to lead us into a short meditation time, and then we can have some discussion. We teach meditation, and I understand it, not so much as a technique. There is a method, but it's not practiced so much as a technique as a discipline. And the purpose of a discipline is not that it should force you to do something, but like the guy the triathlon runner in the film, a discipline is something that has to be freely accepted and chosen. And then it sets you free. It expands. It sets you free from your ego, it sets you free from your fears, it sets you free from your limitations. So I understand meditation as a discipline, and it fits in to a whole system of Christian discipline that is designed to produce liberty of spirit and the joyful way of living and those fruits of the Spirit I mentioned. If you think of prayer as a big wheel, and the different spokes of the wheel are like the different forms of prayer. And you can put in as many spokes as you like. Again, part of the contemporary problem with the church is that the meaning of many of those forms of prayer has drained away for different reasons. Often because they were associated with obligation or compulsion or guilt or something rather superficial and legalistic. Got to go to Mass. So, but these forms of prayer, of course, are much more close to what the Buddhists call skillful means than to legal obligations. We practice these different forms of prayer in different ways, different times, depending on who you're with and your context. And these forms of prayer have only one purpose. It's not to give you a sense of being self-righteous, I did my prayer today. The purpose of the form of all these different spokes of the wheel is that they take you to the center of the wheel. So the spokes converge in the hub of the wheel. And what do you find in the hub of the wheel? prayer. That image of the wheel of prayer is common in many other traditions as well, of course. In the Christian tradition, we would say that the hub of the wheel, we find the mind of Christ. The enlightened mind of Christ. Another way of putting that is that you find the prayer of Christ, or the prayer of the Spirit. And it's into that experience that our own personal prayer should be taking us. And I think this is a very basic Christian understanding of prayer. It's not my prayer that matters. It is my, as it were, transcending my own little world of prayer and expanding in that mind of Christ, or in that energy of the Spirit. And then, in the Christian understanding, we go with Christ, in Christ, and through Christ to the Father, to the ultimate mystery. So there's just a model of Christian prayer. And how does meditation fit into that? Well, in two ways, I think. If you're going to meditate on a regular basis, then it's another spoke in the wheel. But the other thing that we find at the center of the wheel is stillness. Probably came here on wheels today. And if there's no stillness at the center of the wheel won't be able to turn around it. If the axle isn't solid, you won't be able to control the direction. So here you have a symbol that really illustrates a major aspect of all human spirituality. Stillness at the center is the source of the energy of the movement and activity of your life. And if we lose that connection between the stillness at the center and the activity of the movement, the rushing of our lives, we've lost it. We've lost direction. There's a nice image in that film of Claire sitting on the edge of by Sydney Harbour with speeded up activity going on around her, and she was still in the centre of it. So it's the same with meditation, I think. The stillness of meditation allows the activity and the thought as well of life, and the emotional activity of life to stay in harmony and with a sense of direction. So, you could say, certainly, meditation is a way of prayer. But in this sense, that it takes us into the prayer or the experience of the Spirit. And that's why, and this is, I think, that may sound a bit theological and abstract, it has a very practical effect in your attitude to meditation. A lot depends on how you approach it, because it's a very simple method. Very simple. We saw the pictures of the children meditating. We had a meeting in here yesterday talking about our work as a community, bringing meditation into schools. Children are the most easy and beautiful audience to teach meditation to. They take to it like ducks to water. It's quite extraordinary. I mean, I'm talking about ordinary kids with attention deficit problems and some hyperactive. Ordinary kids in an ordinary classroom, full range. And the reason that they can meditate so naturally and like it, and they will say, can we have it again, please, is that it's simple. Simplicity is what we're all looking for, ultimately. But simplicity isn't easy always, because we come to the practice with our own perplexities and agitated minds. So there's a work. The work is moving from our complexity to simplicity, and from all this agitation to a stillness. And preparing for that work is important. Tim will give us a few moments just to prepare physically and mentally now. But at the end of the day, you have to do the work. But then you find something wonderful, is that the work is so natural that the work is almost doing itself. You just allow it to happen. You have to allow it, you have to be there, you have to make time for it, but then it happens and the flower opens by itself. Simplicity, stillness, and silence. These are the three qualities of meditation, and we practice them through this discipline, this ancient Christian discipline of prayer, and something you find reflected in many other traditions, of taking one word, sacred word, mantra, prayer word, and repeating this word continuously in your mind and heart, letting go of everything else. As you say the word, within a nanosecond you will be thinking of something else. When you are aware that you're thinking of something else, you then let go of the thought and return to the word, saying the word again. That's the work. Now, we may say, oh, that's very difficult, I can't possibly do that. A child says, that's like a game. It's playing. And I think that's why children take to it so well, because praying and playing for them are not so different. If we could be a little more playful about the work of meditation, I think we find it easier. So choosing the word is important, because you want to stay with the same word through the meditation period. I would recommend taking a word that's sacred in your own tradition. It's helpful if it's not in your own language, because that means you won't be automatically thinking about the meaning of the word or imagining thoughts around that meaning. So the word I would recommend is the word Maranatha. It's ancient Christian prayer. It means, come Lord. We don't think about the meaning of it as we say it, but we give our full attention to the word and listen to it. The way we come to silence is through listening, really. So we listen to the word gently, we say it gently, faithfully, and attentively. And that's it. That's the work. That's the game. That's the practice. And the fruits come as naturally as the opening of a flower. So the basic discipline, or the basic practice, sit down, sit still. Stillness of body will help to come to a stillness of mind. Relax, but be alert. Sit with your back straight. Close your eyes lightly, and then silently, in your mind, in your heart, begin to say your word. Articulate it clearly in your mind. Ma, Ra, Na, Ta. And listen to the word as you say it, and keep returning to it gently and faithfully.